Aloha.
Aloha.
So you might be interested to know that every time I say that to you, I'm expressing some love for you. I'm respecting you. I'm thinking about your dignity and mine. And aloha conveys that and much more. So it's a great start for our next session, which is our keynote speaker, Maggie Eyre. She's the director of Fresh Air. Notice the play on words there. So she's the director of Fresh Air, a motivational speaker, and author of Being You, How to Build Your Personal Brand and Confidence. Now, many of us are pretty familiar with brands. A personal brand tells the world about who you are as a human being, personally and professionally. Did you all know that you have your personal brand? Who knew that they had a personal brand? Oh, very nice. Okay. So for those of you who might not know that you have a personal brand, you do have a personal brand. Maggie will talk about the importance of authenticity and confidence. Thinking about your reputation is important. Thinking about that personal brand is important because you get to be in charge of creating how you want to live and act. What your body language says, what your voice says, and the words you choose will shape your personal brand on the first impression you make, whether in the room, online, or on the phone. Maggie will share her insights on the theme today, knowing who you are and what you stand for. Please note there'll be time for questions at the end of Maggie's keynote. It is now my great pleasure to, and I invite you to join me in welcoming Maggie Eyre to the podium.
Aloha. Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you. I love that. It was just wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you know, today feels really special for me. And I wasn't going to share this, but I want to. But 30 years ago, I gave my first keynote speech at Waikato University. And some of you will know this woman who is my dear friend and mentor who worked here, Professor Marilyn Waring. She phoned me and she said, I need your help, Maggie. Our speaker has pulled out. And that speaker was Kerry Hume. And I said, I cannot step in for Kerry Hume. There is no way. And then she told me, I'll pay you $600. And those days, that was a lot of money. So I got my best dress on and I got the bus. And I said, Marilyn, I'll only do this if you coach me. She was trained as a professional singer in London. And she knew all about breathing. And I said, I've never given a keynote. This is ridiculous. They're all academics. Luckily, I just had a documentary made about me. She said, bring the doco. I said, that doco's too outrageous. And most of the audience are men. It won't work, Marilyn. Anyway, it did work. But she spent 3 days teaching me about key messages, teaching me about breathing from the diaphragm, the voice, teaching me about expressive body language. And I always credit Marilyn because she's one of my dearest friends. And she's one of my mentors. And when I got the call from Nikki Thomas, where are you? Thank you so much for everything you've done to get me here. I thought of that day because I was terrified. I've come a long way in 30 years. I'm no longer afraid of public speaking. It's become a part of my career and my life. And I loved it when you talked about knowing who you are and making a stand, because in a way that's what my new book is about, Being You, which came out this year in May. What I didn't realise when the publisher came to me and said, would you write this book about personal branding? First of all, I said no. There's thousands of books, particularly American books, about personal branding. I don't want to be just another book. And he said, but for years that's what you've been doing. You've been working on Helen Clark's personal brand, and he named all the people whose brands I've been working on for years. So I decided to do it, but what I didn't realise was how confronting it was for me to write about being you and authenticity. And there were times when I looked in the bathroom mirror and I didn't like what I saw. I thought, oh my gosh, at times I'm actually inauthentic. And it felt like a year of therapy with myself, being me. So I started interviewing people, about how I come across. And my brother, who's an accountant, a prolific writer, works in Dunedin, said to me, Maggie, you were fantastic last week on TV Breakfast One. And I said, thanks, Tony. He said, you were really authentic. And I said, but what about all the other times? He said, you weren't being authentic. This is family, huh? And my accountant. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, the other times you were performing. You were being larger than life and you were performing because you were a trained actress. And I really thanked him and acknowledged him because I got it. So I started to realise that when I was on radio or television, I was performing and acting, but thought I was being authentic. What is the difference? So for being you, a personal brand, yes, is about everything you see, but it's very much about your values. It's about who you are being in the world. And for me, it's a lifelong job just to find out who I am, being me, and making a stand for something. So I had a very humble beginning, and there was violence in my home, and I care about kids at risk. So I'm very involved with children at risk on a board called Tyler, Turn Your Life Around. Tyler, so our kids live out west, out of Auckland, and they live out south. For me, my values have shaped me, and they have driven me. What I would like to, before I actually get into really digging deep, you've been sitting all morning, and everything about your presence and your body language and your voice is very tied up with your brand and your clothing and everything. And I would like one generous person to come up here. I will keep you safe, and I'm going to just demonstrate a simple exercise. Then I'm going to get everybody up to do it. So it's about confidence, and it's about your own being. So could one person come up here, please? I've heard you're in a fantastic audience. Oh, give her a clap. Lovely to meet you. What's your name?
Hanley.
Beautiful name. Okay, so I'm just going to go, hello, I am the letter X. And she's going to give it back to me with confidence, authenticity, presence.
Hello, I'm the letter X.
Give her a clap. Thank you. Okay, so I want you to stand up. Somebody you can use up here, but somebody behind you at the side of you. For 2 people or 3 people, just go, hello, I am the letter X. Away you go, up you get. Up you get. Hello, I am the letter X. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and one more generous person to come up here. One more generous person to come up here. Don't be shy. Oh, give her a clap. By the way, I don't know whether it's true, but there's a whole lot of research done about that pose, with a sociology. Is it Amy Cushing? Amy Cutting, who says this is like the power pose and to stand in front of the mirror. I haven't ever done that, but I like that. I like that, I am being myself. Okay, and now I'm being inauthentic. I'm lacking presence. I'm not enjoying my job. Hello, I am the letter O. Can you give it back to me?
Hello, I am the letter O.
Hello, O. Hello, O. Give it a clap. That is the best O anybody's ever done. I love you. She makes me look good. Great. One other last person up here, please. One person. Come on. Yay, give her a clap. Great. And now I'm full of energy, I'm being authentic, and I'm full of life, great eye contact, nice posture. I'm going to say my name. Hello, my name is Maggie, and you give it back with your name.
Hello, my name is Eva.
Great, give her a clap. Thanks, Eva. Okay, great. First of all, I just want you to get up and I want you to go and find an O. Just go and find an O. and say, hello, I'm the letter O. Everybody up. Go and find an O. And now I want you to turn to one person, preferably that you don't know, and just letter X and your name. Away you go. One person. And I just wanted to do that exercise so if you see somebody having an O day, please go up to them and help them, encourage them to be an X. Yeah? Okay. How many of you are shy or you'll see yourselves as introverts? Thank you for your honesty. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because I have 4 brothers and 3 of those are very, very shy, and I feel like the world is not geared for shy and introverted people. So I'm an ambassador for all of you who are shy. So in terms of a personal brand, what is a personal brand? There are 3 areas that are really, really important. And authenticity is absolutely very important, and knowing what your values are. And also your reputation is how people perceive you. And then your legacy, what are you going to leave behind when you leave this university or you leave this lifetime? But before we go into those 3 areas, I just want to ask you to call out or write down, or someone just give me 3 words that would describe who you are or your personality. So mine would be like open, caring, and loyal. My PA, who's on maternity leave, who I miss so much, would say something like vibrant, empathetic, and honest. But 3 words that would describe who you are. So, in other words, to work out what your personal brand is, you need to know who you are. You need to know what you stand for in life. Like in life, I won't tolerate sexism, I won't tolerate racism, I won't tolerate homophobia. I mean, in my family I have Tongan and I have Samoan, so diversity is really important to me. But who would be willing to call out 3 words that describe who you are? Thank you. Do you want to stand up? That would be lovely. No pressure.
Positive.
Yep.
Energetic.
Yep.
Caring.
Wonderful. Great. And there was someone behind you. Yes.
My 3 words would be honest, passionate, and curious.
Great. So turn to the person next to you or behind you and just 3 words that would describe your personality, your personal brand. Just do a little chit chat now. Okay. So let's just dig a little bit deeper. Let's dig a bit deeper. What is your reputation? Just think about that now. What is your reputation? And what would you like it to be? So just think now, what is your reputation and what would you like it to be? I promised Nikki I would show up. I did show up. My reputation is very much about being reliable. Turn to somebody next to you. What is your reputation now? What would you like it to be? Just have a chit chat. Where you go? Okay. Thank you. This is good. This is a good sign. This chatter. Anybody willing to be brave enough to say, this is what my reputation is now? We've got some strong people in the room, strong women. Anyone willing to share that? Must be one person.
I'm gonna do it. So I think my reputation is actually timid, and this is gonna surprise people.
Did you say timid?
Reputation
Yes,
is timid,
yes.
afraid, and and
What would you like it to be?
I think more what I showed today, which because I'm actually really bold and creative and brave, so it's almost like the opposite.
I love this. Give her a clap. And I really acknowledge you, because who finds it hard to stand up in a forum like this and actually speak out? Yeah, absolutely. So well done. Yeah. So I've just been working with somebody who I'm allowed to talk about. He works for KPMG. He's the CIO there. And he came to me and he said, Maggie, I'm so scared about giving this keynote address. I'm terrified. And I said, well, let's start talking about that. Let's start working on your content. And he gave me the presentation. It was mind-numbing. It was dull and boring. Oh, gosh, you're recording this. We might edit some of this. And, but he doesn't mind, right? So he works in the cyber space, catching criminals at KPMG. And I said, Cohen, what did you do for a living before you worked in corporate? He said, I was a cop on the beat in South Auckland. Now I was getting interested. Tell me about your childhood. Raised by single mum, very tough time, humble beginnings. And he had these beautiful tattoos that he was hiding under this white shirt. And so I said, so you were catching crims then, like gangs, on motorbikes, and now you're catching crims here in the cyber world. Let's weave this into a story at the beginning of your presentation, because you want to work on your personal brand. The other partners don't even know what you did. The chairman doesn't even know what you did. And they certainly don't know you had a tough beginning. You're earning a huge amount of money now compared to being a cop. So we weaved it all in, and he even went away and got that song, you know, Bad Boys. And it's really conservative conference, and he had it blaring and he walked on. I mean, we spent about 4 times, and what was lovely was his wife the next week met me, and she said, Maggie, thank you for helping Cohen to be himself and be more authentic in this presentation, because now he's actually at home and now he's feeling comfortable. But his key messages about catching criminals were still there. So in my career, I've been helping people shine on the stage. I've been helping people to be true to themselves. I never used to tell people there was violence in my childhood. I never had the courage until the actually Me Too movement came out to tell people I was raped at 12 by my girlfriend's brother. I was hiding it until the Australian Women's Weekly said, Judy Bailey, you know Judy Bailey? She said, isn't it about time you told that story? I was just not wanting to share so much. So even for me at my age, I'm learning to be more open. Going back to Cohen, he's now cooking with gas. He's speaking all over New Zealand. He's speaking in the Pacific Islands, and he's now starting his presentations with his stories. So my job is to help people humanize their material at the beginning. I work with a lot of academics, particularly preparing academics for TED Talks. Just make sure I've got the right glass here. And I worked with one academic, and her thesis was it was about failure. And it was a bit dull. And I just said, this is a bit dull. You can't do a TED Talk. You can't have all these academic long words. I call them $15 words. Human capital, human capital, human capital. I said, you're talking about people. People, people. And, you know, so opposed to $5 words, leap, dance, sing. Like, we want everyday plain English. So I said, when did you feel like a failure? And she said, well, when I was living in India, I had an arranged marriage. I gave the man the ring back. I wanted to choose my own partner. And I went to the airport, flew to New Zealand, but my mum and dad would have nothing to do with me. And as I stood there before I got on the plane, I felt like a failure. I said, that's your beginning of your TED Talk. Ring mum and dad in India, tell them you're about to go live. With a TED Talk, don't scare all the whānau, don't scare everybody, all the family. And she started off her TED Talk, but with a personal story. So she felt relaxed. She felt really authentic. And Professor Marilyn Waring said to me years ago, Maggie, you've got to start being more real about your childhood. You've got to start sharing it. You've got to start telling your real story. So it doesn't matter what your real story is, but in terms of your brand, people know when you're faking it. They absolutely know. And to be fully expressive in our lives, we need to actually share our story. We need to know who we are, what we stand for. I am on another board called Star Jam. Some of you may have seen the Lotto ad at the moment with our little kiddies with disabilities. Yeah. So in terms of my values, I've always been around compassion. So that's really hugely important for me. The Tyler thing, I'll fight for kids who have nothing. I'll fight for one of our kids at Tyler. She was self-harming, and I took her on. And I said, darling, Prince Harry's coming to New Zealand. He's chosen Tyler, and you're going to talk to him. And she said, what? Yep, you're going to stand there, TV cameras, and you're going to tell Prince Harry, your story, she was petrified, and she was 16. So I coached her and I coached her and I coached her. She was amazing on the day, so amazing that TV3 interviewed her and gave her an exclusive. So it's absolutely finding the confidence to be true to who you are. And if you don't feel confident, then it's something that you really, really, truly need to work on. Turn to somebody next to you, and I want you to ask that person, just ask that person, what's the one word, what would you use to describe your personal brand? What would you say you are as a human being? Just one phrase, one word, what would it be? Like you might say, I'm a game changer, or I asked an academic yesterday what she did, and she said, I'm a babysitter. I babysit all the deans. Because I was working with her on an elevator pitch, and I said, I like that. You babysitter, that's cool. And I said to another academic, what do you do? And she said, I'm a fairy godmother. Just trying to get people to use different terminology and get away from the academia. But just turn to somebody, how would you describe your personal brand? Just have a little chat to someone behind you, in front of you. Would anybody be willing to stand up and just share how they would describe their personal brand? Would anybody be willing to share? Yes.
Non-conformist.
Like it, non-conformist. I like that. Anyone else? Yes. Verbose. Verbose? Great, like it. Anyone else? Okay. There's just a little E.E. Cummings, and she's a poet and, of course, an author. And I like what she says about authenticity. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you like everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. And that's just, does anybody relate to that? Does it have resonance with you? Yeah. So it's really important to look at, am I being authentic? I want you next week to start interviewing each other. And I want you to do several things. When you come out of a meeting, it sounds odd, but was I authentic in that meeting? When you come out of, maybe you're giving a speech or you're talking to the students, was I being authentic? I want you to start asking all the time, and ask people that you really, really respect all the time. And start to notice when you're not being authentic. Somebody said to me in London once, you're being very inauthentic. I didn't even know what she meant. I was shocked, and I was actually bad-mouthing New Zealand. And she said, I don't like what you're saying about your country. I challenge you, I don't like you talking that way. And she challenged me about my conversation. I'm totally in love with my country, by the way. I don't want to live anywhere else. And I want you to start interviewing each other. Don't make a booking like in the diary, just make it be spontaneous. How do you see me? How do you perceive my personal brand? Just start asking people all the time and thinking about those areas, authenticity, reputation and legacy. Just start interviewing people. I did that all around the world. I was shocked and amazed at what came back, and choose those people really, really carefully. People often say to me, how important is image? How important is clothing? Now, I work with a lot of high-performing athletes, and I love it. It's a really important part of my work, preparing them for television, preparing them for a speech. And they always turn up in their, in their sport gear. And an Olympic winner the other day called me last month and said, Maggie, I'm going into a school. Shall I wear my, it wasn't Nike, but shall I wear my, sports clothing, or shall I wear my black trousers and a jacket? And I started talking to her about a personal brand. You decide what you feel comfortable in. And I always say to people, whatever you do, don't wear clothing that isn't you. So in England, I worked with, you Google this woman, you'll love her, Angela Eagle, the Eagle twins. She's this amazing, incredible gay woman who is brave, so brave. And, and she said to me right from the beginning, Helen Clark organised this work, and she said, Maggie, don't put me in skirts. I don't want to wear skirts. And this is what I love, this is what I don't love. She was very clear about what she was prepared to wear and not wear. And I loved that about her, that she was, she said, I'm happy to wear nail polish. I'm happy to wear makeup, but just don't put me in clothes that I don't want to wear. Marilyn Waring tells every former MP, don't let Maggie Eyre take you shoe shopping. And I was, years ago, when I took her shopping, I didn't know that politicians were always on the grass. And she said, she got me wearing these little heels, and they were so uncomfortable, and they dug into the grass, and she's never ever forgotten it. So it's really, really important to wear clothing that expresses you. You know, I spent years and years working in a top public relations agency, and I was an account director. I was the cash cow. I was a top biller. And my boss said to me one day, I wore black suits, by the way, brown suits, grey suits, very conservative. And he said, when are you going to start being you? You're from the theatre. You're actually very flamboyant. So I started wearing pink, orange, just wearing lots of bright colours. I'm not wearing bright colours today, but I wear a lot of orange, which is part of my personal brand. So I started being more real. What I was doing was trying to fit into a culture. I wanted to be loved, I wanted to be liked, wanted to be accepted. And also, I'd been an actress for so many years and was used to just putting on a costume. By the way, I died in Shortland Street 5 years ago. So if any of you are sitting here thinking, I think I've seen her before, I did die in Shortland Street. It was a great role. I was an alcoholic. I'd accidentally run over a child in the street. I devoted all my work to the community, and my nurse, the lesbian nurse, was in love with me and tried to bring me back to life. Anyway, I was very dramatic, over the top, and going off on a tangent. So what I would like to do now is to have one person come up here, and I'm just going to give you an opportunity for 1 minute to tell the audience what it is that you do here. What is your job? The reason why I'm doing that is a huge part of my work is getting people to tell their stories in an interesting way and getting them away from all the academic jargon that we use. So I have a lot of jargon in my life. I know that this is about personal branding, but everything you see is about your personal brand. Like, as soon as I met you, I just thought you were amazing. You were so warm and just, I don't know, just you were very real and down to earth. The greeting I had here from Nikki, where's Amanda? When I came in here, there was authenticity all around me. I love being here. It was the feeling, it was the vibe, it was the people. Just really, really. But anyway, let's have one person. Look, I'm expensive one-on-one, so take advantage of me. Use me up, come up here. I will make you look good, so don't worry about it. Whatever happens up here will be fabulous. And if you hate talking in front of groups, grab this moment. Nudge someone next to you. Good, give her a clap. Great. How are you feeling?
Yes.
I like that. How are you feeling? Yes, that's good. Like I'm just showing up in life. It's really, really good. So all I'm going to get you to do is look at this wonderful people. I know you can't see the back row. Great, friendly faces who love and adore you. And just tell us what it is that you do. So just a few tips around being distracted. We don't want this. We don't want anything that's closed. We don't want this. No. We don't want dancing fingers or fiddling with the ring. We don't want playing with the hair. But what we do want is feet parallel with the shoulders, nice and strong and powerful. And then you're breathing from your diaphragm. You're not breathing from up here, which is shallow breathing. All right? So it's like you're looking like a champion. You're not looking like a monkey or a victim, or you're like a champion in life. But just your name and tell us what you do. Okay.
My name is Cara Tate, and I advocate here for the service that supports students with disabilities.
Great. Tell us a little bit more. Tell us what that looks like.
What does that look like? That looks like putting in a lot of services and support for students so that they can be successful in their learning. It might look like a note taker for one student. It might look like some software on a computer for another student. It's very client-centred, so it's what the student needs.
Great, give her a clap, stay here. Give her a clap. I want to run away. So, give us some feedback. Were you engaged? Why? Tell her why. Someone put your hand up.
She smiled.
She smiled. We're 30 muscles in our face. I worked with somebody once, never smiled. I was terrified of her. Just really smiling invites people. Great. What else?
She looked harmless.
She looked...
Harmless until she brought her arms out.
Oh, okay. When she said armless, I thought, armless. She started gesturing after a while.
Put her arms behind like you started. She's armless.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, armless. Yeah. So this is like, because everything has a language, like clothing has a language. Everything has a language. And it's like, well, I'm not really quite confident here. So what do you do with your hands? If you stand here and then even like this, you'll start to gesture so it's natural. Like I love doing that because it feels comfortable, but we don't want you to do that. We want you to have open body language. What else? What was she doing well? Were you engaged? She had eye contact. She was looking. She wasn't looking at the ceiling or looking at the floor because I can't see back here. Anything else? Voice. What was she doing with her voice?
The expression was really...
Yeah, so what we want in a voice is highs and lows, shade and colour. When we're natural and we're enthusiastic, we will not speak on one level like this. So it's engaging with your voice, yeah, and having some feelings. What would you like her to do that would make her even larger than life or just more engaging? What could she do? One thing. Move? What else? Anything else? What could she do? Volume, okay. The main thing I want you to do is turn up the volume. Turn up the volume, okay? So just so it's a little bit louder, do the same script again. And this time you're allowed to act, you're allowed to fake it till you become it. And it's just really, even if it feels a bit inauthentic, just a bit louder. People will listen to you if we can hear the voice. Okay, so,
Again.
Yeah, away you go.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Cara Tate. And
Good, do it again and even louder.
Ooh. Kia ora everyone, my name is Cara Tate and I am the Accessibility Services Manager and we advocate for students with disabilities.
Right. What was the difference in that? Because energy. Thank you. It's just energy. And that's what we want. People move toward energy. Throw me some really curly questions and anything about personal brand because this is my favourite part. And also, but what I want to say is after today, when I leave, I am very accessible. If you want to take my card, which is out the back on the table, email me, have contact with me. And also, if you want some material, like Maggie, can you send me a couple of videos? Could you send me some tips from the book or whatever? I will do that for you. I don't want this to just be a moment here of talking about your personal brand. But before I do that, in the back here, many of you will know about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who I have a lot of respect for. And I really, really like what she has to say here. And she says, people are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. But when the darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there is a light from within. So you're the only one who can turn the switch on. You're the only one who can turn the light on. You decide whether you want to refresh your personal brand. You decide what you want to do. If you're shy and an introvert and you're happy, stay with that. So you decide whether you're happy with the way you come across. Perception is reality, but you have to really be at home with yourself. And a lot of people, when I say in classes, who can you think of in New Zealand who's a strong personal brand? Who do you think they say? Yeah, Jacinda Ardern. And I say, why? And they say, because she's natural. And when I saw her, and I know Jacinda, in the Koro Club lounge with her baby, and Clark trotting along with the nappies, and the little bag, and I gave her a big hug, and I watched her go around that lounge with baby and talk to everybody. I thought, wow, we've got a down-to-earth Prime Minister who's so real. And I was just watching her body language and listening to her, and just Clark, and I thought, I never thought I'd ever see this, you know, and I can see why people trust her. So the more real you are to your values, and she's got strong values, the better. But just thank you for being here. May this be the beginning of a conversation, but I hope you also throw me some hard questions. Let's just sit down here. Any questions about personal branding?
So do we have any questions? Oh, there's one right there. We might need the microphone.
Mic.
For that. Yeah.
So before you talked about leaving a legacy behind, I just want to know what legacy you would like to leave behind.
I'm so glad you asked that, because I get up every morning to make a difference. And on my grave, I would like that she made a difference. She touched people's lives. She moved, touched and inspired people. And for me, my mother had a strong personal brand. She was kind and compassionate. She left school at 12. She had no education, 13 kids in the family. And she was the most honest person I've ever met in my life, the most compassionate. And she was my role model, and I carry her. She died with me 4 years ago. And I want to be known as someone who really changed people's lives, who helped people. So I work with people who have phobia of public speaking. I work with people who have, social anxiety, who are very scared and very shy. I'd like to know that I just touched people. And I'd also like to I'd just like to say in there, what I'm mostly proud of in my life is not the 7 books. Sorry, not my books that are in 7 countries. It's the way I was as a human being around my mother, and the way I left London and came back and lived with her and looked after her. So I'd also like people to be able to say she cared about family.
Awesome question. Nikki.
You talk. Thank you so much. That was so insightful. The speech. How do you? I guess you know that you can only change you, but if you want to influence others to sort of find their authentic self, obviously there needs to be an element of vulnerability.
Thank you.
How can you encourage others
Thank
to
you.
be vulnerable?
And I think that is so important, to be vulnerable. After Mum died, I'm not a mother. I became a mother. I didn't understand unconditional love. I understood getting up 4 times in the night to get Mum to the commode. That's called unconditional love. So just going back to your question, I cried when I gave my first speech after she died. I just cried in front of the audience. I felt so embarrassed. And then I looked up, they were all crying. And it was wonderful, because it was a very Polynesian, Pacific, Māori audience who just embraced me. And when I left, I thought, oh my gosh, I showed them how vulnerable I am. I thought, no, Maggie, you were real. You showed your human side. So I think vulnerability, it's really important. It's so important. So I say to clients, I coach clients often for the eulogy, at the funeral. And I say, if you're going to cry, that's fine, but just pause and breathe. My brothers were told, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And that's what I saw. My brother lives next door, and we often have dinner together. And he always cries when it's something sad about a child on the news. And I love it. Show your vulnerability. It's just water. Show your vulnerability. People, you want an audience to relate to you. My job is to not impress you. My job is to, reach you and connect with you. So I think when we're vulnerable, we connect.
Do you have any tips for how you've encouraged others or your people who you've worked with to be vulnerable when it's not natural to them?
Yes, I have. I film people, play it back. Film people, play it back. and I have to do tough love. I have to say, look at that, you look like a robot and you sound like a robot. I love you, but I want to know who you are. So I start interviewing them. Tell me about the children. Tell me about that child. And things come out. My child is being bullied at school, and this is what's happening. So I'm known for someone who, I get real things out of people. And then I go, see who you're being now? Fantastic. At the moment, we're working with an academic who's about to go to Canada and make a speech. There's so much jargon in her speech. It's frightening, it's terrifying. So my colleague, Ali Weber, is getting to know her on the phone. Tell us who you really are. And then she's saying, I want more of that woman in the speech. I want more of that, you're afraid. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have come in here and said, I had a phobia of public speaking, and 30 years ago I gave my first keynote address. I wouldn't have done that. I was too into looking good. But it was Marilyn Waring who started challenging me and saying, isn't it about time you were truthful? So what I do is I just keep on talking to people and say, particularly with the men, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. Because I see vulnerability as a strength.
Awesome answer. Oh, we have another question right there.
So when you started first being vulnerable, especially bringing up people, the story from your past, I guess this would be a fear of mine and a lot of people. Did you feel like people started looking you in a different way or judging you? Or
Yes. Well, this is very interesting. In the Australian Women's Weekly, I told Judy Beattie a lot of things that I've never talked to anyone in public. So in my family, there is a lot of depression, mental health issues. And so I started talking about my battle with depression, my struggles with depression, my father's struggles with depression. And I said, oh, Judy, I don't know whether I want you to talk about that. Oh, gosh. And she said, Maggie, you will help people. You will help people. And I could not believe that here I was, still afraid to talk about the dark times. And I've lost so many friends to suicide, too many friends to suicide. And I thought, Maggie, honour those people, honour those loved ones, honour Katea, who hung herself, honour her, and left behind 2 little children. So that was huge for me. When it came out, I just wanted to shrink away. And I thought, Maggie, you're just wanting people, you're just trying to look good. And then I had CEOs and general managers saying, Maggie, I had no idea. I had no idea you were battling depression for all those years. So it's just important, I think, to think, why am I here? Because I make a stand around mental health. It's huge. I've been to too many funerals, yeah? I've got so many clients who are on medication and suffering from depression. So I have to remind myself, Maggie, this is not about you right now. You need to reach people and help people. I don't know whether that answers your question in a roundabout way. Thank you. So in other words, taking risks and not worrying. I love this phrase, it's none of my business what anyone thinks, says or does. Someone gave it to me years ago. Because as an actor, I was obsessed with what people thought of me. It was all about looking good. Any other questions about?
No, we might have time just for one more question. Yeah.
So at university, we really love meetings. Do you have any tips for making yourself heard?
Yes, oh, I like this. In the university, we have lots of meetings. In public relations firm, we're always in meetings. It's very important. In a meeting, your personal brand shines or doesn't shine. Know what it is you're going to contribute to that meeting. Plan it before you go in. What is my key message? Or what are my 3 key messages? If there are 3 things that I want to raise in this meeting, like say you want to talk about double standards or something, know what it is that you're bringing into that meeting. And if you're really nervous about saying things, role play it with somebody. Role play it with somebody. And I do a lot of that because I do job interview technique, but also I believe it or not, I role play with people when they want to ask for a raise. They want some more money. So actually know what it is and don't be afraid to speak out. But also think, what am I bringing to the meeting? Don't sit back and expect to take. It's about networking. I always say to people, think about what you're going to give the other person. Think about what you're going, think about serving the other person, not what can I get at that networking event. What can I contribute? And I always have a motto like leave meetings, leaving people great. Don't blame, no shame, no guilt. Don't put people down. I mean, I'm on your side. Aloha. I love that. I'm going to steal that. I'm going to steal that when I facilitate. I hope that answers your question. And I'm going to stay around so you can come and talk to me. Just want to say thank you. I know that you were running a little bit behind, so I had to cut some of the speech short, which I feel fine about, but come and talk to me and just keep on being you. Just keep on being yourself, keep on being authentic, and keep on reaching out and asking for support from other people all the time. So thank you. Thank you.
I hope you all have been as uplifted as I was by this presentation. It's touching that once Maggie stood here, perhaps a little trembling, the way that many of us feel at times, and yet you can see that she's clearly a force of nature. And her vulnerability. Yes. It is really quite a strength, and it takes quite a big person to share so much of themselves with a room of strangers, and I'm really touched by that. Some of the things that I took away is I will be practicing my X in the mirror, and we'll see how that goes and what my 11-year-old son thinks of me when I do that, or my husband. I love that she brought up that instance of failure as the beginning of a story. And I think for many of us, we've had that experience, and that is something to channel, that's something to harness, as failure as the beginning of a story. I also love that she gave us homework. And so I hope that you're mindful that we have been given homework. It's actually the sign of a really great leader and developer that she wants us to go away and not just think about how nice today was, but go and do something about that and keep developing ourselves. So I hope you take that on board. And lastly, I also noticed the factor of legacy. And it's a strange thing that I have often looked at gravestones, just as you were saying, and I've thought somebody else put that on the gravestone, but what will people put on my gravestone? And I hope one day that that'll be a good thing, that somebody puts on my gravestone. So I actually feel an affinity there, and I really love that. But I hope now that you'll join me in just giving her one more big clap, because I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.